Alright guys, now today I'm going to do a long overdue update of my home office slash Manden tour video. As I think my last one was back in something like, summer 2011, I think the last time I give you a little look around. And I've had a few people drop me a message, and when I did that Ask Me Anything video recently, a few people were like, give us a new tour, show us what you've got. So there have been quite a few new additions to the setup in here in the last couple of years. So I thought I'd give you a quick overview as to my current setup as of February 2015. Now I'll try and keep this pretty brief, particularly as lighting in this room is never really all that good, especially when it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon in February and it's already starting to get dark. But I'll just try and give you a quick overview as to what I'm sporting at the moment, really, in terms of hardware and stuff in here. So I've got two desks. That's my secondary one. My main desk is over here, and then I've got this kind of little unit here. And if you watch my channel regularly, you'll know that I'm quite into retro gaming and retro computers. And there is a bit more of that in this room, and then I've got my main gaming setup in my living room. So I'll try and get through it all as quickly as possible. Best way to start would be here on the secondary desk. So I've got an Xbox 360, which I don't actually use for gaming all that much, really. My main gaming setup's in my home theatre setup in my living room. The reason I got that in here is because I've got it hooked into this 24-inch Samsung LCD TV, and it was really a way of just, transforming that into a smart TV, really, so I can watch Netflix and YouTube and iPlayer and all that, when I'm working on the Amiga, for example. It was a pretty cheap way of doing that, and I use it for gaming occasionally if the missus is, in the living room watching the soaps or Big Brother or some crap like that. I can escape in here and have a few games with my brother. That said, though, I've also got a Chromecast there as well, which would also transform this TV into a pretty cheap smart TV. But I only got that in December of last year. Now, the reason I picked it up, it was kind of on a whim, really. In PC World, they were selling these off for about 25 quid. A little special offer in the run-up to Christmas, and I thought, at that price it was really too good to pass up on, really. Although, it has just been sat there on the desk for, the last 6 weeks or so. I haven't got around to setting it up yet, but at that price it was a steal, really. Although I do have to find a TV with a spare HDMI port now, I think. Next to it, I've got my Logitech speakers. They are pretty standard computer desk speakers. They do go pretty loud, though. The good thing about this particular set of speakers is, if we go under this table here, ignoring the massive set of wires that looks a bit like spaghetti, that is on my jobs list this year, sort out cable management a bit better. The subwoofer for the speakers here has actually got 3 separate inputs, so that does mean that I can have the audio from the Xbox, the TV and my Amiga 4000 all routed through the same set of speakers, and all controlled with this little volume knob that I've got here on the top of the Amiga. Whereas before, with my old speakers, I was constantly having to unplug the mini jack cable, so it's a much easier way of doing it, really. And then obviously onto the main display piece of my second desk, my beloved Commodore Amiga 4000. And this is actually a pretty recent addition to my home office. If you watch my channel regularly, you'll know that I am a huge fan of the Commodore Amiga, probably my all-time favourite machine. Before, though, I did have an Amiga 1200 set up on this table. But really, by the time it got to summer last year, I had an IDE hard disk connected externally with the IDE cable coming through the case. I had a Indivision AGA scan doubler, an MPEG decoder, all hanging off the machine, and it looked a bit like Frankenstein's computer by the time we got to September last year. And to be fair, I've always really wanted a big box Amiga, in particular the A4000, and this one came up for about 300 quid. And the seller was local as well, so I finally got my hands on an A4000. So it looks a lot tidier having everything inside the big box, and also it enables me to add stuff like a graphics card and internal Ethernet and all that, which I've got on this machine. There's actually a Picasso 4 24-bit RTG card in there that's displaying on this monitor here. Which gives me some really nice screen modes to use in Workbench and the OS. And this is the most recent addition to the Amiga. I've got a USB hub plugged into it, as I added a Rapid Road USB 2.0 expansion that came out in December of last year. Actually, it's only a new release, to the Xsurf 100 Ethernet Zorro card that I've got in there. So that basically means, you know, I can have USB on my Amiga. And the reason I've got it into a little powered hub here is because the USB port's around the back, and it's a lot easier to get a USB stick into there than it is going around the back every time. Next to it, my joystick of choice for Amiga games, the Zip Stick. We've got a Logic 3 speed mouse here as well, which has always been my favourite Amiga mouse. The A4000 keyboard there. And we go next to it, there is a little monitor selector. Nice old school one. That I remember using those at school actually, as all the machines on this table here are just VGA connections, and they go into this rather nice 19-inch Mitsubishi Diamond Plus 92 CRT. Now, these are based on Sony Trinitron technology, so you know the colours look really rich and vibrant. As I have used the Amiga with the Samsung LCD before, and to be fair, the colours of standard def content never looks great on LCDs. You know, I've done a video on that before, but it always looks washed out and really blocky. The display quality on here is absolutely gorgeous though. And I mentioned I have got this Amiga 4000 online. It is hooked up to the internet, so I've got an FTP program running there. I was doing a few downloads before. On top of it, we have a Sun keyboard. Now, this keyboard actually came with a machine I've got down here, which was donated to me actually last year. I got it for free. It's a Sun Blade 150 Unix workstation. Now, unfortunately, it's not in working order at the moment as the flash memory inside it became corrupted, so that is probably on the to-do list at some point this year. At the moment, though, it just kind of sits down there, kind of holding up all his machines, really. You know, it's kind of used as a little table. But I will get that working at some point this year, as it sounds quite interesting. On top of it, I've got a old Pentium 4 Windows XP machine that I've also got stuff like DOSBox and a lot of classic PC games on there. And again, you know, I play those on the CRT monitor. It's great for stuff like Wolfenstein 3D and Quake and, you know, all the classic PC games really that look a lot better on a CRT. At the moment, this keyboard is connected into a Mac Mini G4 that sits here around the back that runs MorphOS. Now, that used to be my main MorphOS machine, but it got replaced recently, so I've kind of got it as a secondary MorphOS rig. You know, it kind of sits behind there. It's attached into this monitor via the monitor switcher, and it's got a wireless mouse here as well, and I've got Synergy on my main PC that lets me control it too. And well, I'm actually going to do a few MorphOS videos soon via a capture device, so this will be the machine that I use for that, as you know, I can mess around with the screen modes and change the configuration and not have to worry about messing up my main machine. Next to it, we've got a little dog that my girlfriend made, a USB Competition Pro joystick there that doesn't get a lot of use, but you know, it's there if I ever want to emulate anything. Here we've got a Commodore watch from the 1970s. It was one of the first LCD watches made by Commodore, who later brought us, you know, the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, etc. So just a little display piece. It's quite nice. Got some business cards there, some sand from Barbados, little London bus thing, a bit random. My microphone here, an Audio-Technica AT2020 that I normally use in my YouTube videos. I get some people asking what my mic is. Here we've got some more speakers, another set of Logitech ones, standard PC ones with a subwoofer really, a Dell keyboard with a kind of big mouse mat there that I use with the mouse as well. Now these are actually wired peripherals, as I did try using wireless mouse and keyboard on my main work PC, but it would always end up running out at like 2 o'clock in the morning when I had no batteries in, and I'm not really all that fussed about it being wired anyway. Now I've got these monitors here that I've had for years now. They're 22-inch Acer displays, and one of the goals in 2015 is to finally get around to replacing these with something a little bit more modern, as I think I got these back in, God, it's probably around 2007 I think, so they've done me well, but I would prefer something a bit more modern and a bit more stylish and sharper. So I'm probably going to replace all of these three over the next few months. I'm a bit OCD though, so they'll all have to be the exact same model. As you can see here, I've got three of these. Walking out of the shop with those under my arm was a bit of a struggle that day. Next to it we have a little headphone stand there with my Sennheiser headphones, and there's a subwoofer under there as well, some pens and CDRs behind there. A light. Here we've got, well actually first I've got my iPad on a little Bluetooth keyboard dock. It doesn't always live in here, but I've had it today because I often have Twitter on there, so, or I might have a video playing or something while I'm working. Behind that we've got a little kind of retro tower, you could call it. So I've got my Sega Mega Drive there with the EverDrive cart. It's got a 4GB SD card in. There's pretty much every Sega Mega Drive and Genesis game on that little SD card. Underneath we've got a Mega CD, look out for a video on that soon. And then we've got a Panasonic 3DO that is actually powered up at the moment and displaying on this CRT here. As it hasn't been very well recently, but I've been in there earlier today with a soldering iron. I've replaced a few of the capacitors in it, so it actually looks like it's working alright at the moment. So I might be able to do my long-awaited 3DO video because it actually stays on for more than 10 minutes now. In front of that, this is a Doxy receipt and paper scanner. As one of my most hated things in the world is receipts. I cannot stand having crappy bits of paper lying around everywhere. And being self-employed, it's important to keep it all for tax purposes. As soon as I buy something, I scan it into there. It then gets saved onto its internal memory. And it's also got a wireless flash card in there that syncs with my main PC, then gets uploaded to Google Drive and Evernote as well, so I've got backups of it. Next to it, we've got another monitor here with my MorphOS machine on, showing the MorphOS ambient desktop with my emails open at the moment. An Apple Slim keyboard I've had for a while, and the old, I think that was the Mighty Mouse, that one, wasn't it? Here we've got a Commodore mouse mat that was from Commodore Gaming, the PC maker that was set up in the last part of the last decade, actually. It wasn't around for very long, but they made a PC case that I've got underneath here. And also these rather cool Commodore mouse mats. So if we go underneath the table, this is my main PC in a fractal pearl case. And the specs of this, it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabyte solid state drive, and then it's got a 3 terabyte hard disk and a couple of 1 terabyte hard disks as well that I use for media and that kind of stuff. So specs in it are pretty nice. Core i7 CPU, and the graphics card is probably what lets it down, really. It's still my old NVIDIA 880 GTX that I've had for years now, but I mean, it still does what I use it for. Really, this is my main work PC, so it's stuff like doing content for the web and a bit of video editing and audio production and a bit of Photoshop. So for that kind of thing, this machine suits me fine. Next to it, though, we have got a PowerMac G5. I did say that I've replaced my MorphOS rig. This is now my main MorphOS machine, the G5 system, with a dual boots OS X Leopard and the latest version of MorphOS 3.7. Next to it we have my Amiga 1 XE that I've had for years now. And I did actually do an overview of this years ago, but I will be honest, it's not even hooked up at the moment, and it doesn't really get a lot of use anymore. It became really unreliable after a couple of years, and at one point I think I'd spent the best part of around £200 replacing the memory in it, which is registered. That's really expensive, trying out different sims that weren't working properly, and reseating the CPU, replacing the graphics card and everything in it, and still it was crashing pretty much every, randomly locking up every 10 minutes or a couple of minutes sometimes. So in the end I moved all my data over to MorphOS, and that's kind of the the next gen Amiga system of choice that I've got now. I've tried to do a bit of cable management down there, but these wires up here are all new additions, so that is my job over the next couple of months, get things tidied up a little bit more under here. I've got a little unit here as well that's got stuff like memory cards and USB sticks and that kind of stuff in, and controllers for these systems here. Not really a lot of interest in there. Next to it we've got my Commodore 64 that's got a dust cover on at the moment, and the 1541 floppy drive for it, and this CRT monitor, which is a Philips 88332 14-inch CRT that I use for the 64 and also the Amiga CD32 that lives under the table down there, and also the Mega Drive and the 3DO. I've got a little AV switcher box behind there that can nicely swap between them, and the audio and visual is just there at the flick of a switch, really, so it's really handy. On top of here I've got a Wi-Fi bridge unit. Now I've actually got my Commodore 64 on the internet. I've done a video on that before if you look at my history, and that's how I link it up to my Wi-Fi network via a Netgear Wi-Fi bridge and a 64 plus NIC card in there. As I mentioned, we've got the CD32 under here with a couple of additional controllers and the original CD32 controller. Doesn't get a hell of a lot of use, but it's good every now and then if I fancy trying out some CD32 exclusives. Next to it, kind of some random receipts of my girlfriend's box of crap that she does her hair with in the morning. We've actually got a Atari Flashback. It's kind of a TV stick, if you like. It's actually more of a console with onboard games, and it comes with 2 Wi-Fi Atari-style joysticks, and I think you can actually plug the originals into it as well. Now, I got this for Christmas. I haven't got around to having a go at it yet, but you know, there's a little gift off the girlfriend, so I'll probably have a little go at that at the weekend and try a few of the Atari classics on it. Got just my work bag there as well. Not much of interest in there. If I bring you back around here, underneath the CRT, we've got a unit under here with a few old consoles in. I've got another CD32 in there. We've got the Super Nintendo and the N64 in there. Sega Saturn in that one. Yeah, there's a few. Our PlayStation 1 as well, and a box of wires above it as well. So that's kind of where I just store things away when I'm not using them. We have some floppy disks down there, a CD wallet with Amiga CD-ROMs in that I use on this machine. So that's kind of the setup I've got in this room, really. I think I've kind of gone over everything in here, so I'll take you into the living room and we'll have a look at what I've got in my home theatre. Right, so here we are in my living room. I brought you down here to have a quick look at the home theatre setup that I've currently got. I've tried to make it a bit lighter in here because the lighting is not amazing. I've actually brought down this little LED light, so hopefully that will illuminate things a bit more, as it can be a bit hard to see on camera in here. So I think the best thing to do would be just to start from here. I've got a Pioneer internet radio there. Now this thing can stream radio off the net, really. It can also do AirPlay from your phone, USB, Bluetooth audio, you name it, this thing can do it, really. So it's pretty useful for when I'm sitting down here gaming. I can have a bit of music playing and that, it's good on a Friday afternoon sometimes. I've got that behind my award that I won for some online work last year, not showing off. We've also got my recent and current gen games here. So we've got Wii U games that are kind of winning the shelf space battle at the moment. PS4, some Xbox One games there, PS3 and Xbox 360. They're kind of just my most played, really. All the rest are kind of stored away in boxes in the wardrobe. Next to it, we've got the subwoofer from my LG speakers. Now I've got 5.1 surround sound in here. Excuse the decor over there on the couch. That wasn't my choosing. And on top of that, we've got my DualShock 4 controllers for my PS4. Speaking of which, there it is, the PlayStation 4 that lives on the top of the unit here. As everything's kind of done in this, finished black now, it all kind of fits in quite nicely, my current setup I've got here. The other speaker there, a candle. If you live with a female in her mid-20s, you have a lot of these around the house. They're everywhere. We've also got a Xbox One Connect, as I have got an Xbox One console there too, which we'll get to in a second. The other speaker, we've also got an Ouya that doesn't get a heck of a lot of use. I mean, there is an external hard disk plugged into it, and really its main use is if I've got friends around and we might want to play, stuff like Super Nintendo games or Mega Drive games, stuff like that. It's generally a bit easier to have it all going in here rather than go in my main gaming room, so I use it for that. Next, we've got my Sky router. I've now got Sky Fibre, so we've got about 80 megs down in here, which is definitely an improvement from what I had about a year ago. The control system for the speakers there, the amplifier rather. We've also got the Xbox One console there that I've got my Skybox actually routed through. The Wii U lives on top of there, which I know hasn't sold a lot. It's been really considered a bit of a flop, but I do quite like the Wii U. Some fun games on there. We've got the Wii sensor there too. If we move down under the unit here, looking a bit messy in here actually. But we've got an Xbox original down there that, I'll be honest, doesn't really get a lot of use these days. If I wanted a bit of Halo 2 every now and then, it's kind of there. We've got my Sky Plus HD box there, and my Commodore CD TV with a bunch of floppy disks that have kind of been left over from having my brother down here at the weekend. I think we were playing a few old Amiga games. Although I have actually got a Gotek connected up to it too, with a USB stick in the front, which has got loads of my favourite Amiga games on, so you can play them all off USB rather than having to use old floppies. And it displays the time as well, which is quite handy, from sitting at up on the couch and want to see what time it is, and it really is the only Amiga I can kind of sneak in this room. I think my girlfriend thinks it's a CD player, so you know, I kind of get away with it that way. In the next unit here, we have a Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 3 that are all hooked up, and underneath we've got the previous gen of consoles that, you know, I still actually play a fair bit, particularly the Dreamcast. We've also got a GameCube there with the Wavebird wireless controller, and a PlayStation 2 also with a wireless controller and the little inputs there as well. As I've been playing actually the Monkey Island game that came out on the PS2 recently, so yeah, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's not really much else to show you in here, I don't think. My MacBook Pro there, I was doing a bit of work last night at this table. And yeah, I think that's kind of everything really. So actually, I forgot that little thing behind there, didn't I? That is a Seagate Central network attached media server. Now, not a lot of people kind of frown on Seagate. I know they've had a bit of a bad rep of recent years. That actually holds 4 terabytes, and it's attached via Wi-Fi into my router. And what that lets me do is I can basically stream, you know, all of my HD movies, Blu-ray rips and everything. Not only via the Xbox here and you know, the PS4 when that gets DLNA capability, but I've also got a Raspberry Pi behind here as well that you'll see kind of nested in the cables there, that I've got XBMC on, so I can stream movies and stuff to that. That's actually going to be getting replaced with a Raspberry Pi 2 that I just ordered today. So that's kind of useful. That's always on 24/7 as it uses hardly any electricity, so I often use it for watching YouTube and streaming movies straight off that little media server, which I do keep a backup of on my main PC. But it's quite handy. It also means in the bedroom where we've got Apple TV and everything set up, I can use the Seagate app and then stream movies from that to my my Apple TV in the bedroom, so we can watch movies and stuff in bed. So yeah, it's kind of useful really. I quite like having the little media server there. That's been quite a nice little addition I've made in the last few months, and my goal is basically to get rid of all of my Blu-rays and DVDs, as you know, this year's going to be all about decluttering a little bit. That was kind of my New Year's resolution. So there you go, that's a little overview of my home theatre setup as it's looking as of February 2015. Thank you for watching this video. Hope it didn't go on too long, and I will catch you in the next one.